Hey guys, it's Joe from eattheplanet.org. Today I'm in a forest in New England and I'm going to do a video on how to find food in the forest in the fall. Now there are other places to find food if you're in a survival situation like meadows and the coast along the beach. The forest isn't always the easiest place to find food. Despite the fact that there's a lot of biomass out here, all the calories are locked up in tree trunks basically. So there's so much vegetation out here, but a lot of it is not in edible form. In other types of environments like meadows and fields, in the fall you're going to be looking primarily for roots and green vegetation. So in the forest, you're going to primarily in the fall be looking for seeds and nuts and also edible mushrooms. Now this is in temperate forests. You also can find edible insects like white grubs. You can also find some edible twigs and leaves, although in the fall this isn't the primary thing you're looking for because the leaves have usually hardened off and become inedible by this point. Alright, so hopefully we'll find some nuts or seeds and we'll find some mushrooms and hopefully we'll find a few other things out there. Let's see what we find. This is Japanese barberry. They're an invasive species because they can handle the shade of the forest. There's red berries that come out in the fall. They get quite a bit redder as the winter comes on, and a lot of times they stay on through the winter. These are edible, although they have a little bit of a bitter flavor. Like I said, sometimes you'll find these in mass in the forest, so there could be quite a large quantity. One thing to look for is oak tree saplings. This is one here. This is a typical oak leaf shape. The pointed tips of the lobes tell you that it's in the red oak group of oaks as opposed to the white oak group. The reason I'm looking at this sapling is not because any part of it's edible, but because it identifies that there's likely oaks around here. And now I'm just looking for a larger oak that's producing acorns. This is an oak leaf, and by the rounded tips of the lobes you'll know that it's in the white oak group of oaks as opposed to the red oak group. In my experience up here in New England, the white oaks, you have a chance of being able to eat them without processing in small amounts. There's tannins, but they're not as strong as in the red oaks. Although I've heard that in the red oaks, when you process the tannins, it works better than in the white oaks. And I'm hoping to find a red oak acorn so that I could show you how large they are. Around here, the red oak acorns are pretty large and in a large quantity also. Another thing to look for is obviously acorn caps. That will indicate that there should be some acorns around that have not been taken by squirrels yet. Over here it looks like here's some. These are kind of small. This is a type of white oak. So I'm going to keep looking for a bigger acorn, and then we'll crack these open and see if they're good inside or not. Okay, I'm going to crack these open and we'll see what's inside. First, take the caps off, if you can. Alright, we'll start with these three here. Alright, that'll break it open. That's not bad inside. You've got a little bit of evidence of insect damage in there, but a lot of the white stuff is edible. I'll put that to the side for now. You want to try to take all the brown out of there if you can. There's also a brown coating on the outside, and that tastes bitter, so take that out too. So those are somewhat edible. Definitely if you're looking for food, you could eat those. Another one. This one's in really good shape. The problem with foraging in the forest is the animals take the stuff before you, including insects. For example, mushrooms are always taken by slugs within days. So normally you would want to take that outer coating off even more. And let's check this last one. Oh, look at that. That's perfect. So this is what you're looking for when you're trying to find food in the forest, in the fall in particular. Okay, normally if you're going to eat acorns, you'd have to process them by smashing them up with a rock, and then you have to run cold water through them for a while. You can either do changes of water like in a pot or something, but what people used to do was put them in some kind of sack and put them in a river and let the river wash out the tannins. The tannins are the bitter contents of the acorn that make it almost inedible. Now this acorn is from the white oak group, which I've found to have less tannins, and I'm going to taste it now and see if it's edible without any processing. It's not bad. It's a lot better than red oak, but I could still taste the bitterness in the acorn. All right, so I cracked this one open, and I did find the Acorn Weevil here. These are the edible grubs. I'm going to show you what they look like. There's one right there. Not very active. It actually just got cold today. There was at least two in here. There's another one. So if you open a bad acorn and there's acorn weevil inside, obviously cook them first, but you can add those to what you're eating. Now, one concern with grubs is that sometimes what they've been eating is bad for you. So with these, you don't have to worry because you know that all they've been eating since an egg is acorns. So they shouldn't taste too bad, although they might be a little bit bitter because of the tannins in the acorn. This right here is a beech tree. One identification feature is that smooth bark. You can look for beech nuts below. They're pretty small, and I rarely find edible meat inside the beech nuts, but if you see a beech tree, it's worth at least taking a look. Here's a beech nut, and I'll try to crack this open and see if there's anything inside these, but usually I have not found anything. This is one of the beech nut seeds, and as you can see, there's no substantial nut material inside. It's probably been eaten. So like I said, it's worth looking if you find a beech tree, but don't have high hopes if you're looking for food. I didn't expect to find this out here, but it's an eastern native plant called sassafras. The roots of this plant smell like root beer. This is the original flavoring for root beer. There's a little bit of controversy on whether they're carcinogenic or not. Some tests have been done, but others have doubted those tests. The leaves are generally considered edible by foragers. Obviously, there's the warning I just gave about potential carcinogens, but I eat these leaves a lot. Most foragers do. One way to identify sassafras is, especially when they're young, they have 3 different leaf shapes on one plant. There's this shape with 3 lobes, and then there's one with 2 lobes, which I'm looking for and don't see. So another identification feature is just to either scratch or break off the stem and smell it. The upper part of the tree will smell like citrus peel, and the roots will smell like root beer. I found some cool little mushrooms here. So just obviously make sure that you don't eat anything that you can't identify. I've found that in the plant and mushroom foraging community, every once in a while you find people on the 2 extremes. Some people won't touch anything, even if they know it's edible, and some people aren't worried at all about toxicity. And plants and mushrooms both have extremely toxic species and edible species, and lookalikes between toxic and edible species. So if you're not 100% sure what you're looking at, definitely don't eat it. The saying is, when in doubt, throw it out. This is one reason why it's difficult to forage in the forest in particular. Here's an example of 2 slugs eating a mushroom. This mushroom probably came out a few days ago or less, and now it's already being consumed by slugs. So it's difficult to find things like mushrooms and even nuts because the animals just pick them up as soon as they're available. This right here is a Shagbark Hickory. As you go up, you can start to see the shaggy bark flaking off in large strips. Here's a good example of it right here. You'll see that up and down the whole trunk of a mature Shagbark Hickory. I'm going to be looking for hickory nuts here. Shagbark has large hickory nuts, and they're one of the best trees for collecting and eating hickory nuts. I found some hickory nuts. These are not Shagbark Hickory, but they're a decent size. This is what they look like, and that's what they look like green. So these shells are useless. You can't eat these at all. So I'm going to discard those. And the good thing about hickory nuts is that as they age, the shells usually just pop off on their own. And this outside is so hard that it's difficult for animals to get in there, although squirrels manage to do it pretty reliably. So I'm going to crack this one open and see if there's anything edible inside this nut. So that's where the edible material is. This one looks a little bit old, like maybe it's decayed. So let's try a couple more and see if any of them are good. This one's probably too old also. Yeah, that's all rotten. Nothing in there. This one looks like it might have something inside that's edible. Yeah, because that shell is nice and hard. Let's see. All right, there you go. So the edible part is in between. It's hard to pull out, but that's it right there. And that's why you want to go for a shagbark hickory or a larger nut, because the meat on the inside is a very small amount, unless you have one of those larger hickories. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. Please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you do, make sure you hit the little alarm button next to the subscribe button. That'll make sure that you get updated when I have a new video. And please post any questions you have in the comments. Thanks again for watching.